wife. I don't usually have the pleasure of starting beginners off, but she used her influence to get me to teach this 11-year-old boy, son of one of her girlfriends. And when he came over with his trumpet, I took his trumpet. He had never played before. I took his trumpet and his mouthpiece, and I played a G, below his middle C. And I made him listen. Then I played his low C. I played My Country, 'Tis a Thee, Sweet Little Song. But anyway, I just made him sit there and listen. Then I made him close his eyes and listen. He wants to know how to play. I wouldn't even answer the question. I said, this is what it has to sound like. But I would put an imprint in that brain of the sound of his instrument, where the horn is there, the mouthpiece is there, but the only variable is the player. Then I said, you have to imitate me. I don't care how you do it. He said, it's not going to be right at first. I don't care about that. But I want you to try to sound like I do on one note. Then I want you to go home and show your dad what Mr. Jacobs sounds like. In other words, I put that mind, instead of asking questions, I put him into imitation right away. So the dominance of the thought was not how do I play the trumpet, but how do I get this thing to sound like Mr. Jacobs sounds? By trial and error. It's not going to be right at first, but in his brain was excellence of sound, which I played, but mediocrity in carrying it out. He did not have the ability to carry it out. That doesn't matter. It's the excellence in the brain, and this computer activity of the brain tries to figure out how to carry it out. Very quickly, this young man began to sound quite good. And we worked on that basis of the sound. Within 3 months, his bandmaster called me from school and told me how well this trumpet player was sounding. He says he sounds like a pro. He can't read a note. He says he can't count. But boy, he sure sounds good on what he does play. Well, it was only 3 months, you know. But anyway, he developed into a pretty good trumpet player. I had Mr. Herseth took him over after a while, and he became a first-rate trumpet player, got through school on trumpet playing scholarships, and then became an accountant. But he did have pretty good teachers.
How do you go at it from the most elementary level?
It's a study of motivation. You, I take a beginning, well, we'll say a beginning brass student, we'll say a beginning trumpet player. I put him down in a chair alongside of me, then I take his trumpet and his mouthpiece and I play one note. And I say, listen to this note. And I'll play it again. I let him think about it. I'll ask him to sing it. If he can't sing it, I ask him to hum it, whistle it, go over to the piano and play it. Whatever. But I have to show recognition on his part, but I always have a period of silence where he can think about what he has just heard. In other words, he practices recall. Same thing with a singer. When you're working, so often it's very, very important that the music is digested in the brain in these periods of silence, where you learn to hear sounds in your head that nobody else can. And then you feed into those sounds what you want that young student to learn. This is what I mean by the training of the brain in the art form. We have to make sure, not in the voice, but in the instrumental aspects, that we don't get the brain involved in the mechanics of how to play an instrument as a dominating thought.
Isn't that common?
It's extremely common, but what we do is get him very interested in the elementary sounds that a beginner will make. And after I get him going, I'll take his horn and play a little so he can hear what his horn will sound like with his mouthpiece, his horn, but a more advanced player. So he knows what his horn can sound like. And then I don't insist that he sound this way right away, but that he think about it, that he imitate. Imitation is a powerful learning tool. You don't always want it in voice for everything, of course, but on the brass instruments, which have much greater, similarity, to controlled production and so forth, we can imitate the sounds. So here I am playing a trumpet where the instrument, the mouthpiece is the same. The only variability then would be my concepts as a player. And I play better than that student, so as can be imitate. I may play 2 notes. Then I might play "My country, 'tis of the sweet land of liberty." Usually they sing that in school,
Sure.
so it's already starting to form in his brain. And it gives him something to work from that's already in music. Then I ask him to take the horn home, and I show him how to play on the mouthpiece and buzz, and not to worry about whether it's going to be good or not yet, you know. But I ask him to buzz a lot on the mouthpiece, play that little anthem on there, or a Christmas carol, or anything he wants, or just make buzzing sounds. I don't care. But I want him to get started, so we begin to have hypertrophy of the small fibers that are going to do the shaping processes in the embouchure. Now, these cannot be felt or experienced either, but they will respond to the motor orders from the brain. Anyway, we're putting him in the art form immediately.
Right.
He's a very, very elementary artist, extremely elementary artist. In other words, he's a beginner, but he is in an art form. Now, as he learns the music, he is learning the instrument. I prefer that over learning the instrument in order to make the music. I put the priority on the sounds made by the instrument because in the act of creating those sounds, he is learning to play the instrument. He's learning the fingering, he's learning to read the notes, but the big priority is to try to get the sound like Mr. Jacobs sounded. And then go play for his father. Let his father hear. This is what this horn can sound like when Mr. Jacobs plays it. And to the best of his ability, he will imitate on maybe 1 note. And I've done this already.
I'll bet.
Yeah, with students, and with some very, very good results. But in anything you do, it's a matter of studying the product and going for the product rather than the methodology of how to proceed with it.